Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are tackling the single biggest roadblock to learning something new, that nagging feeling that you just don't have the time. Whether it's learning an instrument, a new language, really any skill you can think of, the time commitment can feel totally impossible. But what if that huge number you've been hearing your whole life is just wrong?
So let's get right to it. How long does it really take to go from knowing absolutely nothing about something to being, pretty good at it? I think most of us have a skill we've always wanted to learn, but we get stopped in our tracks before we even start, completely paralyzed by the mountain of hours we think it's going to take.
Ah, there it is. You've definitely seen this number before, right? It's everywhere, in books, articles, conversations about what it takes to succeed. 10,000 hours. It's such an intimidating number, and honestly, it's the figure that makes most of us just say, nope, not for me.
And just to put that into perspective, 10,000 hours is the same as working a full-time job with no vacations for 5 straight years. The myth that's floating around is that this is the cost of admission for learning any new skill. But the reality? Well, this whole idea is built on a massive misunderstanding. So how in the world did we get here? Well, the whole 10,000-hour rule actually came from some really fascinating research by a guy named Dr. K. Anders Ericsson. But his original message got completely twisted in what you could call a massive society-wide game of telephone.
See, here's the original finding. Dr. Ericsson was studying elite, world-class performers. We're talking professional athletes, chess grandmasters, the best of the best. His research wasn't about just learning a skill. It was about what it takes to reach the absolute tippy top of a super competitive field.
And then popular books like Malcolm Gladwell's fantastic book, Outliers, took this idea and, simplified it. The message started to morph, from reaching the very top to just becoming an expert. Now that's a small change in wording, but it's a huge change in meaning.
From there, the idea got simplified even more in the public consciousness. Becoming an expert got watered down again to just getting good at something. The number, 10,000, stayed the same, but the goalposts got moved way, way closer.
And this is the final, completely incorrect version that has discouraged so many people. The idea somehow became that it takes 10,000 hours to simply learn something new. And let me just say it plainly, that is just not true. Okay, so if the 10,000-hour rule is basically a myth for most of us, what does the science actually say about learning? Well, it turns out the reality of skill acquisition tells a very different and, frankly, a much more encouraging story.
Look, when you start anything new, a language, a sport, an instrument, you are, as researcher Josh Kaufman so perfectly puts it, grossly incompetent, and you know it. That beginning phase is always awkward. It's clumsy, and let's be honest, it's pretty darn frustrating. You feel horrible.
But, and this is a huge but, here's the good news. The biggest, most noticeable improvements in any new skill happen right at the very beginning. With just a little bit of practice, you get better, and you get better fast.
This whole process is what we call the learning curve. You start at the bottom, feeling like you have no idea what you're doing, but that initial period of practice just rockets you up the curve. Later on, the gains get smaller and take way more effort, but that early progress, it's massive.
Which of course brings us back to the real question. For most of us, the goal isn't to become a world-class expert. It's just to get through that awkward, frustrating phase and get to the point where we're actually pretty good, right? So how long does that part take?
And this, my friends, is where the whole game changes. The amount of time you really need isn't measured in years or even in months. We're talking about hours, a very small number of hours.
So, first things first, let's just take this big, scary number and get it out of our heads completely. 10,000 hours is for becoming the best in the world. For our purposes, for learning something new and being good at it, we can just forget it.
Okay, here is the real number, the one you need to remember. 20. Just 20 hours. The research shows that it takes about 20 hours of focused, deliberate practice to go from knowing absolutely nothing to being surprisingly good.
20 hours? That's it. When you actually break it down, that's totally manageable. It's about 45 minutes a day for a month. And even if you miss a few days here and there, this is a goal that just about anyone can achieve. You can do this.
All right, so let's get practical. It's not just about putting in 20 hours of random effort.
There's a really simple but really effective method to make sure those 20 hours are as productive as they can possibly be.
Okay, here's how it works. Step 1, deconstruct the skill. Don't try to learn the guitar. That's too big. Instead, break it down. Find the 4 or 5 chords that let you play hundreds of popular songs. Focus on the most important little pieces first. Step 2, learn just enough to self-correct. This is so important. Don't spend months reading books without ever touching the thing you want to learn. Grab a few resources, learn the very basics so you can tell when you're making a mistake, and then just start practicing. Step 3, remove your barriers to practice. This means shutting off the TV, closing your laptop, putting your phone in another room, but it also means making it easy to start. Put your guitar on a stand in the living room, not packed away in a case in the closet. And finally, step 4, and this is the big one, pre-commit to practicing for at least 20 hours. Decide up front that you will hit that 20-hour mark. That commitment is what will get you through the tough beginning.
Let's zoom in on that third step for a second. Removing barriers isn't just about the obvious stuff like your phone or the internet. The biggest barriers we face are usually the internal ones: procrastination, and maybe the biggest one of all, the fear of looking and feeling stupid. And this quote from Josh Kaufman really just hits the nail on the head. The main thing holding us back from learning something new isn't that we're not smart enough, it's that we're scared. It's an emotional barrier. Because, let's be real, feeling stupid just doesn't feel good.
And that's exactly why this 20-hour rule is so powerful. By committing up front to just 20 hours, you're basically giving yourself permission to feel stupid for a little while. You know there's a light at the end of the tunnel, which makes it so much easier to push through that initial wall of frustration until you start seeing real, tangible progress.
So there you have it. The barrier to learning that new thing you've always dreamed of isn't 5 years of your life. It's 20 hours of focused effort. The real obstacle isn't intellectual, it's emotional. So now that you know the wall is so much lower than you thought, what have you always wanted to learn?